Welcome back. For the last 40 years, American society has operated on a very specific, almost religious belief system. It wasn't about a god, and it wasn't about a flag. It was about a piece of paper. The belief went like this. If you want a good life, if you want to escape poverty, buy a house, drive a nice car, and retire before your knees give out, you must go to college. A university degree was sold to us as the golden ticket to the American dream. It was the ultimate investment in yourself, the one asset that no one could ever take away from you. From the moment we were 5 years old, parents, teachers, and guidance counselors drilled it into our heads. Go to school, get good grades, get into a good university, and you will be set for life. We told 18-year-olds, don't worry about the cost. Just sign the papers. The debt is good debt. It's an investment. You'll make it back 10 times over. So they signed, millions of them. They borrowed money they didn't understand to buy a product whose value they couldn't measure for a career that might not even exist in 4 years. Fast forward to 2026. That golden ticket has turned into a golden pair of handcuffs, and we have an entire generation, actually 2 generations now, sitting in their childhood bedrooms, staring at a framed diplomas on the wall that cost as much as a Ferrari, wondering why it only qualified them for a job making lattes or answering emails for a boss who is younger than them. Today, we are going to investigate the great college con. We are going to look at the brutal math of the education bubble. We'll look at how the price of admission rose by 160% while wages flatlined. We'll expose why universities look more like luxury resorts and hedge funds than centers of learning. And we will explain why the smartest kids in Gen Z are ditching the ivory tower for a welding torch, and why that might be the genius move of the century. Let ES start with the number that should terrify everyone. 1.7 trillion. That is the total amount of student loan debt held by Americans right now. To put that into perspective, that number is bigger than the GDP of Australia. It's bigger than the total credit card debt of the entire United States. It is a financial black hole that is swallowing the economy whole, but the raw number isn't even the scary part. The scary part is the trajectory. How did we get here? It's simple. The price of the product went stratospheric, and the value of the product stayed exactly the same. Since 1980, the average cost of college tuition and fees has increased by roughly 160%, adjusted for inflation. Now, ask yourself a serious question. Has the quality of education improved by 160% since 1980? Are physics professors 160% smarter today than they were in the 80s? Is the Pythagorean theorem 160% more accurate now? Do you learn 160% more vocabulary in French class? No, the product is the same. In some cases, with overcrowded lecture halls and Zoom classes, it's arguably worse. Now let's look at the other side of the equation, wages. While tuition was moonshotting, real wages for young college graduates have barely budged in decades. In fact, when you adjust for the cost of living and housing, young graduates are poorer today than their parents were at the same age. So we have created a mathematically impossible situation. In 1985, you could work a summer job painting houses or flipping burgers and pay for a full year of state college tuition. It was tight, but it was possible. You could graduate debt-free just by hustling. Today, to pay for a year of private college with a minimum wage job, you would have to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the entire year. And you still couldn't afford the textbooks, which are another scam entirely. This isn't investing in your future anymore. This is financial malpractice. We are asking teenagers, people who literally have to raise their hand to use the bathroom, to take on mortgage-sized debt before they have ever earned a paycheck, filed a tax return, or understood what compound interest actually means. So why is college so expensive? Where's all that money going? If you walk onto a modern American university campus, you might mistake it for a 4-star hotel in Cancun. We're not talking about dusty chalkboards and libraries anymore. We're talking about dorms with granite countertops and private bathrooms, state-of-the-art climbing walls in the recreation center, Michelin star quality dining halls, lazy rivers. Yes, some colleges literally use tuition money to build lazy rivers and water parks. Why? Because colleges are no longer competing on academic rigor. They aren't competing on who produces the best scientists. They're competing for 18-year-old customers who want a 4-year luxury experience funded by government loans. But the amenities are just the tip of the iceberg. The real driver of cost is administrative bloat. Between 1993 and 2009, the number of university administrators increased by 60%, while the number of tenured professors only increased by about 6%. For every person actually teaching a class, there are now dozens of vice deans of student experience, directors of wellness, assistant coordinators of beanbag chairs, and senior VPs of strategic initiatives. The bureaucracy has become a self-licking ice cream cone. It exists to grow itself. And how can they afford all this? How can they charge $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year? Because of the government. The government decided to guarantee student loans for basically everyone, with no limit on how much colleges could charge. It's basic economics. If you tell a university, whatever price you set, the government will lend the student the money to pay it. What do you think happens to the price? It goes up every single year. It is an infinite money glitch for university presidents. They raise tuition, the government increases the loan limits, and the student gets stuck with the bill. The university gets paid up front, the taxpayer takes the risk, the student gets the debt. It's a perfect scam. Now let's talk about the ROI, return on investment. This is where the tragedy lies. This is where the promise breaks. We were promised that a degree guarantees a good job, a career. Instead, we have millions of Americans who are underemployed. This is an economic term that means they have a degree, but they are working in jobs that don't require one. You know this person. It's your Uber driver who has a master's in history. It is the bartender serving you a drink who has $80,000 in debt for a psychology degree. It's the administrative assistant with a degree in political science. They did everything right. They studied hard. They got the grades. But the market doesn't care about your degree. The market cares about skills. And unfortunately, discussing 18th century literature is not a skill that pays the rent in 2026. We are also seeing credential creep. Jobs that used to require a high school diploma, like a receptionist, a sales assistant, or a manager at a rental car agency, now require a bachelor's degree. Not because the job is harder, but because everyone has a degree. The degree has become the new high school diploma. It's the bare minimum entry fee, but it costs a fortune. And the psychological toll of this is massive. Imagine being 28 years old. You make $45,000 a year, but your student loan payment is $700 a month. And here's the kicker, that $700 might not even cover the interest. There are countless horror stories of people who borrowed $50,000, paid on it faithfully for 10 years, and now look at their balance and owe $60,000. Why? Because of capitalized interest. The interest piles on top of the principal, and you end up paying interest on the interest. It is a mathematical trap designed to keep you in debt forever. This debt is unique. It is the financial terminator. You can declare bankruptcy on credit card debt. You can walk away from a mortgage if the house goes underwater. You can default on a car loan. But student loan debt? It follows you to the grave. The government can garnish your wages, seize your tax refunds, and even seize your Social Security checks when you're 80 years old to pay it back. We treat students seeking education worse than we treat failed casino owners. This debt is delaying life itself. We have a failure to launch crisis. People aren't buying houses because their debt-to-income ratio is ruined. They aren't getting married because they don't want to inherit their partner's debt. They aren't having kids because they can't afford daycare. And Sally Mae payments. The golden ticket has frozen an entire generation in a state of suspended adolescence. But something interesting is happening. The scam is starting to crack. Gen Z is looking at the millennials, drowning in debt, anxiety, and misery, and saying, yeah, no thanks, I'm good. College enrollment has been dropping for years. People are starting to question the narrative, and instead, we are seeing a massive resurgence in the trades. For decades, we looked down on plumbers, electricians, HVAC technicians, welders, and carpenters. We told kids those were backup plans for people who couldn't hack it in school. We stigmatized dirty jobs. What a catastrophic mistake that was. Today, while the English major is struggling to find an unpaid internship in a dying publishing industry, the 22-year-old apprentice electrician is already making $60,000 a year with zero debt. By the time they are 30, that tradesperson could be running their own business making six figures. Why? Because of supply and demand. We have too many marketing managers and not enough people who can fix a breaker box. And here is the reality check of 2026. AI can write a marketing email. AI can code a basic website. AI can write a legal brief. But AI cannot come to your house and fix a burst pipe at 2 a.m. AI cannot install a new HVAC system. AI cannot weld a bridge. The blue-collar jobs are becoming the safest jobs in the economy, while the white-collar laptop class is facing an existential threat from automation. The stigma is gone, or at least it should be, because being broke with a master's degree is a much bigger stigma than having dirty hands and a full bank account. The smartest economic move for a young person in 2026 might not be buying a laptop. It might be buying a tool belt. So, is college worthless? No, I'm not saying that. If you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, a structural engineer, or a scientist, you still need that degree. We don't want self-taught surgeons watching YouTube tutorials. But for the other 80% of majors, for the generic liberal arts degrees, for the business administration degrees from mid-tier schools, it has become an overpriced luxury good that ruins your financial future before it even begins. It's a mortgage without the house. We are in an education bubble. And like all bubbles, housing in 2008, dot-com in 2000, tulips in the 1600s, It has to burst. We cannot keep charging Ferrari prices for a product that delivers a Honda Civic outcome. The math simply does not work anymore. Until the system changes, until universities are held accountable for the outcomes of their students, or until the government stops writing blank checks, the best advice for a young person might be the most radical one. Don't go. Or go to community college for 2 years for pennies on the dollar. Or go to a trade school, or start a business, or get a Google career certificate for $500. Because the only thing worse than not having a degree is having a degree that hangs on the wall of a rented apartment you can barely afford, while you send a check every month to the government for a promise that turned out to be a lie. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments, how much student debt do you have, and do you think your degree was worth the price tag? Or did you skip college and go straight to work? I want to hear the success stories and the horror stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because my YouTube degree only cost me my sanity, and it's paying off way better than my real one. See you in the next one.